Deep in the jungles of Central America, something ancient is still there. Stone cities swallowed by roots, pyramids rising through endless green, and silence so complete it feels intentional. For centuries, these places were called lost cities, but they were never truly lost. They were hidden by time, hidden by nature, and hidden from history itself. Because the Maya were not a vanished civilization. They were a world of astronomers, kings, and engineers who built entire cities to mirror the cosmos, then disappeared beneath the very forest they once controlled. And now, with new discoveries cutting through the jungle canopy, we are finally beginning to see what was always there. This is the story of the Maya civilization. Before we begin, make sure you're ready for this journey, because this isn't just ancient history. It's a reconstruction of a lost world, piece by piece, city by city, truth by truth. And if you want more stories like this, forgotten empires, hidden discoveries, and the secrets of lost worlds, subscribe now. Because what you're about to see isn't just the story of the Maya. It's the story of how an entire civilization rose, ruled the jungle, and then vanished into it. Deep within the jungles of Central America, something ancient still breathes. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but physically. Because beneath the roots, beneath the soil, beneath centuries of silence, entire cities still exist. Stone pyramids taller than modern buildings, temples aligned with the movements of Venus, roads carved in straight mathematical lines across endless jungle. And yet today, you could stand directly above them and never know. This is not a story about ruins. This is a story about a civilization that built worlds without wheels, without metal tools, without animals for transport, and still became one of the most advanced societies in human history. A civilization of kings who claimed divine origin, priests who read the sky like written language, and cities that were not built beside nature, but inside it. This is the story of the Maya civilization. Long before stone temples rose from the earth, the Maya were already here, spread across what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. A world of dense rainforest, limestone bedrock, seasonal droughts, and unpredictable rainfall. A landscape that was both abundant and hostile. There were no great rivers to guide civilization, no predictable flood cycles like Egypt, no fertile plains like Mesopotamia. Instead, there was rain, and rain was everything. To the Maya, rain was not weather, it was communication. Storms were voices of gods, lightning was divine movement, drought was cosmic silence. By around 2000 BC, early Maya communities began cultivating maize, beans, and squash. But maize was not just food, it was origin. According to the Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya creation text, humans were formed from maize dough by divine beings. This idea shaped everything, because if humans are made from maize, then agriculture is not labor, it is maintaining creation itself. And that belief would become the foundation of an entire civilization. Because once food becomes sacred, society becomes structured around it. And structure creates hierarchy. By around 1000 BC, something extraordinary begins. Small ceremonial centers begin emerging from the jungle. El Mirador, Nakbe, Wakna, and eventually Tikal. But these are not villages, they are engineered sacred landscapes. At El Mirador, massive pyramids rise above the forest canopy. The Danta complex alone contains over 2.8 million cubic meters of construction, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza by volume. And yet, no iron tools exist, no wheels exist, no beasts of burden exist. Everything is built by human labor, but what drives this construction is not technology, it is belief. Because the Maya are not building cities for survival, They are building models of the universe. Every pyramid represents a sacred mountain where gods reside. Every plaza represents the earthly realm. Every alignment reflects cosmic order. A Maya city is not a settlement. It is a physical diagram of reality itself. In a land without rivers, water becomes the most valuable resource in existence. The Maya respond with engineering genius. They carve underground cisterns called choltons into limestone. They build massive reservoirs capable of holding millions of liters. They design catchment systems that collect seasonal rainfall across entire cities. But water is never just survival, it is control, because whoever controls water controls life, and whoever controls life controls belief. Access to reservoirs is regulated by elites. Temples are built near water systems. Ritual purification becomes required before access. Even drinking water becomes sacred permission. This transforms governance into religion, and religion into infrastructure. Deep in modern Guatemala lies Tikal, one of the most powerful cities in the ancient world. At its peak, tens of thousands of people live within its sphere of influence. But Tikal is not just large, it is cosmologically precise. From its temples, priests track Venus with extraordinary accuracy. They record lunar cycles spanning centuries. They align ceremonies with solar events tied to agriculture and war. To the Maya, the sky is not empty. It is written language, and they are reading it. Time is not linear. It is cyclical. Events repeat. Destinies return. History loops. And kings rule not through force, but through timing. Because in Maya civilization, the wrong moment is worse than failure. The Maya ruler, the Aja, is not a political leader. He is a sacred conduit between worlds, and his body is considered divine. Bloodletting rituals define his authority. Kings pierce tongues, ears, and genitals using obsidian blades. Blood is collected on paper and burned. The smoke produces visions. Through these visions, the king communicates with gods and ancestors. This is not metaphor, it is political legitimacy. If the gods speak through you, you rule. These moments are carved into stelae, stone monuments that immortalize kings as divine beings frozen in cosmic time. The Maya world is never unified. It is a network of competing city-states, Tikal, Calakmul, Copan, Palenque, Uxmal. Each claims divine legitimacy. Each believes their dynasty is chosen by gods, and war is constant. But Maya warfare is not about land, it is about meaning. Capturing kings is more valuable than territory. Sacrifice is more valuable than occupation. Humiliation is more valuable than destruction. The greatest rivalry is between Tikal and Calakmul, a centuries-long conflict that shapes Maya history. Cities rise, fall, rise again, but none last forever. Around 378 AD, everything shifts. Suddenly, Maya archaeology shows dramatic change. Foreign-style weapons appear. Burial practices change. Architecture transforms. Evidence suggests influence from Teotihuacan in central Mexico. Some inscriptions describe foreign elites entering Tikal and reshaping dynasties. But historians debate, was this invasion, elite migration, political alliance? What is certain is this: the Maya world is not isolated. It is part of a continental network of power, and that network can reshape entire civilizations. Maya engineering is not limited by tools. It is driven by worldview. Limestone is quarried by hand, burned into plaster, transported manually, built into pyramids aligned with celestial cycles. But the most important feature is layering. Cities are built over themselves repeatedly. Old temples are buried beneath new ones. Entire dynasties are sealed beneath newer structures. Tikal alone contains thousands of hidden buildings beneath the jungle. Each pyramid is not one structure. but many civilizations stacked together. The Maya developed one of the most advanced calendar systems in human history. 3 interlocking cycles, 260-day sacred calendar, Tzolk'in, 365-day solar calendar, Hub, long count system measuring vast epochs. Time is not measurement, it is destiny. Certain days carry danger, certain days carry power, certain days shape reality. Wars are timed with Venus. Coronations follow celestial alignment. Cities are built according to cosmic mathematics. Even modern 2012 apocalypse myths come from misunderstanding this system. For the Maya, it was a reset, a cosmic cycle turning over. Between 750 and 900 AD, the classic Maya world begins to unravel, but not suddenly, slowly, then visibly. Monuments stop appearing, dynasties disappear, cities stop expanding. At the same time, deforestation accelerates, soil erosion spreads, multi-year droughts intensify. But environment alone does not explain collapse. Politics breaks the system from within. As central authority weakens, city-states compete for shrinking resources. Trade networks collapse, alliances dissolve, conflict increases, and the system fails. People do not vanish, they migrate. Cities empty gradually, first elite centers, then ceremonial zones, finally entire urban cores. Pyramids remain, but silence replaces ceremony. But the story does not end in the jungle silence of Tikal, because while the southern lowland cities faded into vines and dust, the Maya themselves did not disappear. They moved north, toward the Yucatan Peninsula, and in that shift, a new world began to rise. Cities like Chichen Itza, Uxmal, and Mayapan became the new centers of power. And unlike the older kingdoms of Tikal or Calakmul, these northern cities were different, more open, more cosmopolitan, more influenced by trade networks stretching across Mesoamerica. At Chichen Itza, architecture itself changed. Massive stepped pyramids still aligned with the sun, but now new influences appeared. Serpentine columns, feathered serpent imagery, and militarized iconography. A new ideology was forming, one that blended Maya tradition with Central Mexican influence. And at the heart of it all stood one of the most iconic monuments in the ancient world, El Castillo, a pyramid not just built for worship, but for time itself. During the equinox, sunlight crawls down its steps like a serpent descending from the heavens, a perfect fusion of astronomy, architecture, and mythology. The gods were no longer distant, they were encoded into stone. But even in the north, unity never truly existed. The Maya world was always fragmented. Instead of one empire, there were alliances, rivalries, and shifting coalitions. Cities rose and fell in influence like tides, and power was always temporary. By the 13th century, Mayapan became the dominant regional center, a fortified city surrounded by defensive walls. Evidence suggests increasing militarization, internal rebellion, political instability, and eventually, collapse again. But still, the Maya endured, because their civilization was never just political. It was cultural, it was linguistic, it was spiritual, and those things do not vanish with cities. Then came the moment that would reshape everything. The 16th century, the arrival of the Spanish Empire. To the conquistadors, Mesoamerica was a world of immense wealth, strange religions, and powerful kingdoms. But what they encountered in the Maya region was not a unified empire like the Aztecs. It was fragmented resistance, dozens of independent polities, each with its own rulers, each with its own alliances. And that fragmentation made conquest both easier and more complex. Because while no single Maya empire could resist Spain, the Maya people themselves never surrendered as one. They resisted city by city, valley by valley, generation by generation. In places like the Petén Basin, resistance lasted for over 150 years after initial contact. Some cities remained independent deep into the 17th century. This was not a collapse. It was a prolonged struggle, a civilization refusing to vanish. But perhaps the most devastating impact of the Spanish conquest was not military. It was cultural destruction. The Maya had developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the ancient world. Hieroglyphic texts carved into stone, painted on pottery, and recorded in bark paper books known as codices. These codices contained astronomical tables, historical records, rituals, and dynastic histories stretching back centuries, but to the Spanish clergy, these were not records, they were heresy. In 1562, Bishop Diego de Landa ordered the burning of countless Maya codices in Mani, Yucatan. Thousands of books burned in a single event. Centuries of knowledge erased in fire and smoke. Today, only 4 Maya codices survive. 4 fragile windows into a lost intellectual universe. What was destroyed was not just literature, but the written memory of an entire civilization. For centuries after conquest, Europe constructed a myth that the Maya were a mysterious vanished people, that their cities were abandoned due to collapse, superstition, or environmental failure. But this narrative was incomplete because the Maya never vanished. They were still living in villages, still speaking languages like Quiche, Yucatec, Cachical, and Quechua, still preserving oral histories that predated European arrival by thousands of years. What was lost was not the people, it was Western understanding. In the 1800s, explorers like John Lloyd Stevens and Frederick Catherwood entered the Maya region. What they found stunned the world. Overgrown pyramids, collapsed temples, intricate carvings hidden under vines. They documented entire cities that European scholars had never imagined could exist in the Americas. Their illustrations revealed something revolutionary. The Americas had ancient civilizations, equal in complexity to Egypt or Mesopotamia. This shattered old assumptions, but even then, no one yet understood the full scale, because the jungle still hid everything. In the 20th century, archaeology transformed from exploration to science. Excavations at Palenque revealed royal tombs like that of Pakal the Great. His sarcophagus became one of the most studied artifacts in the world, misinterpreted by some as a spacecraft carving, but in reality, a depiction of Maya cosmology, the king descending into the underworld tree of creation. At Copan, stairways revealed the longest hieroglyphic text in the Maya world. Thousands of glyphs chronicling dynasties, wars, and rituals. For the first time, historians could read Maya voices directly, and what they revealed was extraordinary. Not myth, not mystery, but recorded history. Then came the breakthrough that changed everything again. LiDAR scanning technology. By firing lasers through dense jungle canopy, archaeologists could finally see beneath the forest without cutting a single tree. And what emerged was astonishing. Entire cities had been missed, not just isolated ruins, but vast urban landscapes. At sites across Guatemala and Mexico, LiDAR revealed raised highways connecting cities, fortified defensive walls kilometers long, terraced agricultural systems covering entire valleys, reservoir networks feeding massive populations, previously unknown cities hiding just kilometers from known ones, and most importantly, population estimates began to skyrocket. Instead of a few million Maya across the region, modern estimates suggest tens of millions may have lived in the broader lowlands at their peak. This was not a sparse jungle civilization. It was one of the most densely populated regions on Earth in its time. The jungle did not preserve emptiness. It preserved erasure. Every new LiDAR scan forces a rewriting of assumptions. The Maya were not simple farmers living beside temples. They were engineers of entire landscapes. They reshaped forests, redirected water systems, built interconnected urban regions spanning hundreds of kilometers. They were not isolated city-states in chaos. They were a highly organized civilization operating at continental scale. And the collapse now appears less like disappearance and more like transformation under pressure. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Maya civilization remains their calendar. Modern popular culture once claimed the Maya predicted the end of the world in 2012. But this was never the case. For the Maya, time did not end. It cycled, like a spiral, not a line. The completion of a long count cycle was not destruction. It was renewal, a reset of cosmic balance. In this worldview, civilizations do not end. They transform into the next phase of time. Even today, many Maya communities still maintain traditional calendar knowledge, tracking agricultural cycles, ceremonial dates, and sacred timekeeping systems older than Europe itself. Perhaps the most important truth of all is this: the Maya are not extinct. They are alive. Over 6 million Maya descendants live today across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. They are farmers, teachers, engineers, artists, and leaders. Some still live in rural communities where ancient agricultural techniques are practiced. Others live in modern cities while preserving ancestral languages. And across all of them remains continuity, a connection to land, time, and identity that stretches back thousands of years. The pyramids did not belong to a vanished people. They belonged to a living one. Return once more to the jungle, to the silence above Tikal. But now that silence is different. It is no longer absence, it is presence. Because beneath the forest, cities still exist. Under roots and soil, roads still connect them. Under centuries of growth, history is still intact. The Maya did not disappear. They were absorbed into the landscape they once mastered, and in doing so, they achieved something rare in human history. They became eternal through transformation. The Maya civilization was never a mystery waiting to be solved. It was a world waiting to be understood, a civilization of astronomers who mapped time itself, engineers who built cities in impossible terrain, kings who ruled as gods but died as men, and people who endured collapse, conquest, and centuries of misunderstanding, yet still remained. Because civilizations do not end when their cities fall. They end only when they are forgotten. And the Maya were never forgotten, only hidden until now. If you've made it this far, you've just traveled through the rise, brilliance, and disappearance of one of the greatest civilizations in human history. But the truth is, the story of the Maya is still not finished. Every year, new discoveries beneath the jungle reshape everything we thought we knew. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what ancient civilization you want to explore next. Because the past isn't gone, it's still being uncovered.